Choo choo! The hype train can't be stopped. And with that, greetings, freaks and folks. This is Vlad the Lad. We have yet another champion reveal today. It's the Tide Caller, Nami. And I have no clue whatsoever what she does because I haven't played League when she was released. I stopped earlier. Unfortunately, it's not on YouTube yet, but it's on Twitter. So let's actually check out this video instead and react to this sea lady. I'm very curious, probably from Bilgewater, and my best guess is a 3-mana champion. She looks like a 3-mana champion.
I decide what the tide will bring. I won't let my home be...
I know it. It's a 3-mana champion, and she has a tune actually. So it's technically a 2-mana champion, because you get that spell mana back, and it's a 2/3 body, so vanilla setline in that sense. And it says, when you cast a spell, grant +1 attack to the weakest other ally that isn't immobile. Okay. Like, but why this exception of immobile? I mean, you want the +1 attack, not on immobile units, right? But it's a new thing that they write it down there, if you want to boost something. Alright, and then she has a level up requirement, which is you have gained 7+ spell mana this game. Okay, so I'm thinking of, what's it called? This PNZ card that gives you back the 3 spell mana, which is probably a staple with that together to level her up. But let's see if it's worth it to level up in first place.
My people are counting on me.
Ranks, yeah, grant +2 costs. And with every spell, we boost attack.
I'll make corpses of
So in Golden Evaluation from turn 3 onwards.
Rise with the surf.
Oh, what was that? I can't stop with spacebar here. It's a tidal wave that says, it's a 3-mana slow speed spell, and says deal 1 to 2 different randomly targeted enemies and create a crashing wave in your deck. What is a crashing wave though? The 1 to 2 different randomly targeted enemies is a Ragged Rain, but you can't go face with it. And you create this crashing wave.
With the surf.
Good 7 over the whale.
Heed my call.
Oh, there's a crushing wave. Deal 2 to 4 different randomly targeted enemies and create a colossal wave on your deck. Alright, so there's a third version of this card that's probably even bigger
There's
than
a pair of deals I'm happy to see.
You're dealing 2 to 4 enemies, was it?
Nami, rulers of the sea. I am the Tide Caller. I will drive back the darkness.
Oh! I mean, awesome level up animation, but it just came to my mind that at the point where you make normal mana into spell mana is also counting towards a level up. So actually you don't even need this card that's giving you the spell mana back. The Flash of Brilliance, by the way, is the name. I remember it now. Yeah, but now it's the point where
back the darkness.
Nami, and she gets the spell mana. Okay, so now she is a 3/4, and it says when you cast a spell, grant +2/+1 to the weakest other ally that isn't immobile. It's every time. So every freaking spell, there's no cap to it. Isn't it a bit sick? Like this also goes really well with spread on board states, where you always want to buff the weakest enemy anyways, the weakest ally, because you want to spread out on your threats, on your damage. So this is like with gems. You just gem, and for every gem you get +1 attack on the target unit, and on the weakest +2/+1. It's insane. And then we have more coral creature thingies. Where was it? The Fleet Admiral Shelley. It's a turtle or tortoise. What's the difference? I don't know. It's one of these two. It's a 5-mana Bilgewater card with 3/3 body, pretty weak, but it has elusive and a tune. So it's sort of the other card. There is a 4/4 with elusive and a tune and elusive, so it's sort of the same thing, but it has -1/-1. But instead it has the 4 every 2 spells you play in the round grant other allies +1/+1. So even more spread out synergy.
Become a moonstone. I'm counting on you, Admiral.
So, sorry, I have to stop every
counting
second here,
on-
but I need to see what this crashing wave does.
I'm counting on
Deal 2 to 4 different enemies. Okay, we saw
you,
that.
Admiral.
2 to 4 different enemies.
Wash away.
So almost the whole board. And now comes the Colossal Wave. Deal 4 to all enemies and the enemy nexus.
Ride the surging tides.
But I mean, you need to
I
get
can't
there,
back
right?
down. Tides coming in.
Tide's coming in.
Who's on top of the bounty board today?
There it is. No, was it? Was it a card? No. Was it a new card, right?
Who's on top of the bounty board today?
Give me a second. The EBB. The enormous balloon bubble? I have no clue. It's a 2-mana fast speed spell and it says deal 2 to randomly to an enemy or the enemy nexus and create a flow in hand. So yet again another card that will be given us into our, not our deck, but in the hand this time. And it's basically a, with 2 targets, make it rain, but instead of 1 damage you deal 2 damage to these 2 targets.
Let the tide carry you.
I'll show him pain.
Who's hungry?
Okay, I've not seen that because... What's happening?
Embrace the current or be swept away.
I guess we have to look at the cards in a second here.
Move aside, small fry.
Oh boy. And you have the... yeah. Elusive.
My
Winner,
loved
chicken
ones
dinner.
will be safe a while longer.
Holy smokes. Alright. Nami, what can I say? That was pretty impressive. Let's actually check out these cards. So EBB is probably her signature spell because it's directly next to her. Is my best guess. Maybe we see something else in Molytics in a second. And this flow says heal an ally or your Nexus 2 for 2 mana burst speed and create an EBB and flow in hand. Alright, so if you have the right amount of mana, you pay 2 mana for EBB, then the flow, and the flow gives you another EBB in the flow, and the created EBB will give you another flow. So technically we have 3 flows and 2 EBBs from one spell. That's a shitload of stuff. And that's obviously going really well with Nami and with Fist together. Like, that was the reason why they would run together in this particular deck there. Really decent card. It has the flexibility of being a, yeah, deal 2 to randomly to... Oh, there's only one enemy. I read that wrong. So it's deal 2. It's a Mystic Shot that goes on only one target, but it's randomly. You can't choose it. But it can be the enemy nexus. So if the enemy has no more units on board, you play this and it's 2 mana. Go face. And then you can heal something, and then you can do this damage thing again. And with every spell, you do this +1 attack thing if she's not leveled, and if she's leveled, you get this +2/+1, which is a hell lot of stats. And this level up requirement is not hard to meet at all. Like, this makes me think that you most of the time want to bank spell mana for level 1 and 2, round 1 and 2 anyways, and then you play her on 3. Well, technically you don't get a tune then, so maybe you actually want to have a 1-drop, and then you drop her on 3 to get the attune. And from that point, you already have 4 spell mana and have her over the half of her requirement for her level up. And if you have a level Flash of Brilliance in that very turn, you can level up her up in turn 3. It's actually possible. You need a 1-drop, you need Flash of Brilliance and the Nami. So, holy. And then from that point onwards, she's an ongoing value engine. And with this elf set, she is hard to kill for a 3-drop. It's also something to notice here. Yeah, so the tidal wave, like I said, is this deal 1 to 2 different randomly targets, and then you create this crushing wave, which is deal 2 to 4 different randomly targets enemies, and then the colossal wave is this huge thing that deals just 4 to all enemies and the enemy nexus. And if you have this scattered pot, you can actually tutor this card out if you pick on the slow speed spell. If Tidal Wave is your only slow speed spell, of course. But that's actually a combo to look out for, in my opinion. Then we have the Marei Warden. It's a 2-mana 2/1. It says when I'm summoned, summon a random 1-cost follower. Oh baby. Oh baby. I mean, this is a direct power creep to Petty Officer, isn't it? Okay, Petty Officer has this upside of that you can choose a powder kick with it. And you get this 1-cost follower anyways. But it's only one attack less than Petty Officer, and it gives you this 1-cost follower anyways. So I think every time you run Petty Officer for the 1-cost follower, you now run this card instead. Because it's in the same region, it's also in Bilgewater. Yeah, and the Fleet Admiral Shelley. Don't know how good this is, because it's an ongoing engine, and it has elusive, so you technically want to attack with it. And the fact that it has elusive and is so it's an elusive threat in the first place, and then it's an ongoing engine, and only has 3 HP, so the chance that it gets removed is really, really high. And for a 5-drop, this is a heavy investment that just gets countered by the new Boom Shot, for example, by Tristana, or a Get Excited. Just kills our Admiral Shelley here, unfortunately. But for every 2 spells, then you just grant all allies +1/+1. That's a hell of a thing. Alright, let's actually hop to mobility and shit, all the rest. And we're back with the rest of the reveals. It's actually 20 fucking new cards. I think most of them are just tokens of the others, but let's go over them one by one. We start off with the Lady of Blood, which is what happens to be a Noxian card, actually. It's no Bilgewater card, and it's a 2/4 body, pretty understated for the cost, and it says when you discard a non-fleeting unit, create a fleeting copy of it instead. Oh, of it in hand, no. Create a fleeting copy of it in hand. What? So this whole discard thing that we saw yesterday with Cyan, or actually I reacted a couple of hours ago to Cyan with all this new discards, this glorious discard archetype. Here's an ongoing value engine that will just give you the discarded card back if it's non-fleeting, with the fleeting copy, but you still give it back, get it back. So you have the opportunity to actually cast or use this unit or spell, that whatever you have there discarded, use it again. Holy! Or doubles up on your discard further. Maybe you discard a Jury Rig, then you get a fleeting Jury Rig, and you discard this fleeting Jury Rig and get 2 1/1s on the board and have 2 discard fathers for that. Decent, extremely decent. The only problem is that you technically drop on round 4 something that is close to not being able to interact with the combat. I mean, it's a 2/4. Don't get me wrong, you can block into certain stuff, but on turn 4 normally you want other units, and also you don't want to block with engines or attack with engines, so heavy investment, but the payoff could be really, it could pay off. Let's go with that. And then we have the Curious Shellfolk. It's a Bandle City card, actually, not Bilgewater, even though it's an underwater unit here. And it's a 6-mana 4/6 that says when you pick a card from randomly selected options, create a copy in hand and reduce its cost by 1. Now this is the only one I saw in a spoiler or in a leak, it's called. And I thought a bit about it, and I think that should work with Predict and with the Manifest as well. And it should also work with the Invoke mechanic, right? And every time you do one of these things, you create a copy in hand and you reduce that cost by 1. So if you have all these invokes that's with the cost 3 or less, you actually get to pick that very card, let's say a Charger, the 4/1 with Overwhelm, and you pick that, cast it for 1 mana, and the other Charger, or the Charger gets copied to another Charger that costs now 0. So we get 2 4/1s with Overwhelm on the board by just 1 invoke, and you cast them for 1 mana in total if you have this particular engine on the board. The only problem the only problem that I have with this card is that it's coming in too late in the game. It's coming down on turn 6, and all the invoke and predict stuff is mostly happening in the early until mid stage of the game. Most of the time you don't use these mechanics so late in the game, so definitely a card to experiment with. I would do it for sure, but it's coming in very late, so it could be a bad card in that regard. And then we have the Tail-Cloak Matriarch. I think it's pronounced. It's a 5-mana Ionia card, a 4/5 body. It says each round, the first time you recall a follower, summon and exact a Thumblr copy of it. Another engine. Okay, so we have this lady, we have the Curious Shellfolk, and we have the Tail-Cloak Matriarch that will all be a mid-range sort of card. And from that point onwards, we have an engine to whatever archetype we have. Like, I think Battle City it has the manifest a lot, right? So technically it's also fitting in that regard. So it's in Battle City. For Noxus we have this discard engine, and for the Ionia we have recall synergy. And you just recall certain units and attack with it anyways, because now it's ephemeral. And maybe you replay it again. If you do this with return, retreat, you can even double up on this particular unit with another ephemeral unit. Like, it's from, I don't know, it's only a follower. I was just happy. I was happy about it for a second to do it with that, but you actually can't. You need to do this with a follower, which makes it way worse. But does this rescue the recall archetype? I don't think so. We'll test it. And then we have a big Yordle, a 4/7 body for 8 mana from Battle City, the Mirror Mage. And it says when you play a created follower, summon an exact copy. Okay. When you play a created spell, cast it again on the same targets. Boom. Hexite Crystal. You play Hexite Crystal for 2 mana and you do 4 damage to the whole board, and the enemy nexus at fast speed for 2 mana. Yeah, in the right deck, this can be really, really scary. The fact that it comes on round 8 is a little late, and maybe you don't want to have value engines at round 8. But damn, dude, if you create some of these, also the Nami spell that is doing damage on all the others, it's also created, and you double up on that for the same amount of mana. So the Mirror Mage is definitely a thing to consider in those kind of decks. Then we talked about Nami. The EBB is actually Nami's signature card, which, yeah, is what we assumed and what makes her an even better champion at that with that particular spell, because this is a really flexible thing. And yeah, so you create the flow, you heal a nexus, and I was actually wrong about the EBB and flow. It's actually a single card that you cast then that's called EBB and flow. So it's technically combining 2 cards in 1 card, and it has a new name now. And it's fast speed, also fleeting. It says deal 2 randomly to an enemy or the enemy nexus and heal an ally or your nexus too. So it's technically what it says. It combines the EBB and the flow into 1 spell, which makes some sense to not have this huge ton of cards there, right? To go through it once more, you cast the EBB, you get the flow, and then you get the EBB and flow. So a total of 3 spells that will cost 6 mana in total, and they will deal 4 damage in total to 2 different targets, and you heal the nexus for 4, which is not a bad thing, considering that you have all these spells, and with something like Mind Melt, this is something that Nami loves. We'll for sure try that out with the EBB and stuff. This looks very promising. And then we have the Abyssal Guard, which is yet again another Bilgewater follower. It's a 4-mana 2/3 fearsome. It says when you cast a spell, give me +2 attack this round. How good is that? I think it's kind of bad. I'm just thinking of this Nightfall horse, that for every Nightfall thing you cast gets +1 attack. It also has fearsome, and this doesn't see any play whatsoever because it comes so late in the game. Fearsome is a keyword you want to have until mana 3. But just to have it in round 4 makes it so that in the round 4 there's almost 100% chance that the enemy has a fearsome blocker. So either you need to remove it by a spell, for example, and then you can pump it up. In that kind of deck I would see him being viable. But other than that, I see this being very weak. Like for 4 mana having only 3 HP and only the fearsome keyword. Like, it doesn't really matter how much attack you have at that point. Yeah, I don't see this being really good. And then we have another epic 6 mana 4/5 Avatar of the Tides. It says, if you would get a mana gem, instead refill your spell mana. When you cast a spell, create in hand a random spell that costs 3 or less and give it fleeting. Give me a second. So how I read this is that this Avatar of the Tides will block your mana gems. Because normally you get 1 mana gem every round, right? And this particular unit makes it so that you stop on 6 mana, 6 maximum mana, if you play this on curve, of course. And then instead you get 3 spell mana, as opposed to this extra mana gem. And every spell that you cast gives you another random 3 cost or less spell in hand that's fleeting. So it's a value engine in the first place. And second of all, it blocks your getting to mana 10. So if you have any deck that's built around spells, cheap spells, and where you want to end the game real quickly, this can be, yeah, a value engine that ends the game at the point where you spam the enemy with, you know, spells that doesn't cost that much and gives you random spells in hand to then explode in value and end the game before the end game. You end the game before the end game starts. And that's what the Avatar of the Tides does, is my best assumption here. But extremely weird card. Extremely weird concept. Yet again, one of those cards from today's reveals that we have to experiment with. Alright, we already talked about the Fleet Admiral Shelley. The next is the 3 mana 4/3 with the tune. That is, yeah, just this unit. A Journeying Sandhopper is a 4/3 flat for 3 mana and a tune. Without any keyword, it's hard to call this a good unit or a bad unit. Like 4/3 is the villainous deadline for a 3-drop. But again, there are 3-drops in the game, Merciless Hunter, that are just blasting this poor boy out of the corner. If that's even an English expression, I have no clue. Yeah, it's okay. Let's go with that. And then we have a 2 mana Marei Songstress. What are all these names, dude? I can't even pronounce them. It's a 3/2 body, so this solid, almost the best setline that we can have for a 2-drop. And it says, when I'm summoned, if you have cast a spell this round, grant me elusive. That's fucking good. I gotta say. If you have any 1 mana attune unit, for example, and a 1 mana, or you even bank that with 1 mana, and on turn 2 you play this particular 1 mana card, and on turn 2 you have a 3/2 body that's elusive. That's pretty scary, I gotta admit. And having a spell in these kind of decks is a really easy requirement to meet. So, Marei Songstress, good card. Probably too good. We'll see. And then we have the Marei Greatmother, which is a 4 mana 3/3 from Bilgewater. It says, when I'm summoned, create 5 random 6+ cost spells in your deck and lower their cost to 3. Okay, I can dig that. At mana 4 you just get, yeah, value bombs in the deck, and 5 of them. Because they only cost 3 now. When I saw this 6+ cost, I thought of Lux and the synergy that her package has. But afterwards it costs only 3, so it doesn't really make sense that you combine it with Lux there. But yeah, it's sort of a where you play with treasures. You can also play with Marei Greatmother. It's not that big of an impact like a treasure, don't get me wrong here. But you get 5 of them. And you even get a solid 3/3 body with it at mana 4. And it's even a summon effect, so resummoning her will put more 5 more 6 cost spells into your deck. That then costs 3. And it says 6+, so you can have this the Sky's Descent, I think is the name, that does 15 damage to the enemy whole board, the whole enemy board. And you can have that in deck for 3 mana. That's pretty scary. You can have the Ruination for 3 mana. So yet again, this together with Scattered Pot is the way to go, I think. And even, like, this goes with Zep Sprayfin, isn't it? You play this, Afterwards, you play Zeb Sprayfen, and it will draw you a card out of the deck that has 3 or less mana cost. Holy guacamole. Man, these releases are sick. That's for sure. And then we have this Tidal Crashing and Coastal Wave that we talked about. So, a lot of things that we can build with this. I have no clue when I should do this with all these the million cards that we have in a new expansion now. But I'll do my best to keep up with that. If you wanna see me doing that, definitely make sure to subscribe up here. And if you wanna see more reactions, there is a playlist with it. I will also react to the other champions. Until the next champion reel, you stay legendary. Blood out.